All right, so Module 1, Chapter 1 in this master course of understanding affordable and subsidized housing. For the past 10 years or so, I've worked in real estate with a specialization in affordable housing and subsidized housing, in the acquisitions, investment, and operations of those types of developments. And so I really want to start this course with defining affordable housing versus subsidized housing. What does it really mean legally, but also what does it mean as far as how people understand it? Because the term affordable housing has kind of become a blanket statement, a blanket term for, I think, it causes a lot of confusion, and it's become a blanket statement, kind of like, I liken it to when people say EDM, like electronic dance music, and it's just kind of this all-encompassing term, or rock. It's this all-encompassing term, but anybody who loves music like me knows that there are many genres, subgenres. So rock is like this style of music, but then there's heavy metal, you've got, bluegrass and all, so on and so forth. So very similarly, when people say affordable housing, they're interchanging it with true affordable housing and housing or any kind of real estate where folks who live there are receiving some sort of government benefit. So we're going to start with just the basic affordable housing. And again, this whole course was designed over the last, 5-6 years based on questions I've been getting, specifically around the confusion. And certainly during COVID, we did a lot of work in the development of affordable housing, specifically because both affordable and subsidized housing saw a lot of stability in an unstable environment during COVID, where a lot of renters lost the ability to pay rent, and quite frankly, the government said, that's fine, don't pay rent. So a lot of our clients flocked towards models that utilized subsidized housing or housing subsidies for the renters that helped them pay rent, which meant they kept their housing, and then the investor or owner had cash flow. So this is going to be really comprehensive and just plain English. So when we think about just the term affordable housing, there is actual affordable housing in terms of how it's recognized by the government and how it is recognized financially. So affordable housing in the traditional sense are housing developments that are mandated to only house certain populations based on their income level. So AMI, area median income, refers to a population's income as it compares to the median income in any given community. So when it comes to affordable housing developments, these are situations where the developer is getting either a loan or concessions from the government to incentivize them to develop. The loan will be very favorable. It'll be something like a fixed 30-year fixed loan at a very low interest rate, or they may get certain concessions and privileges like density bonuses, where they don't have the mandate to have a certain amount of parking allotted to that plot of land, which allows them, of course, then to increase the density, otherwise known as a density bonus. So they can essentially build more units, which should give them more rental income, or have favorable loan terms subsidized by the government. In exchange, the government wants these properties for the term, 30, 50 years call it, to only house a population whose income is below the area median income, AMI. So oftentimes these affordable housing projects will have a on them. And excuse my terrible handwriting, but covenant, and it'll be maybe 30 years or 50 years. And this project, this property, for that term can only house applicants whose household income is a percentage lower than the AMI. So if the AMI in a particular neighborhood is, call it 50,000 AMI, the applicants in a particular property, and this will be determined in every covenant will be different, would have to be at, say, 80% below AMI, or maybe 60%, and so on and so forth. So it'd be like low income, very low income, and extremely low income. And usually what will happen is, as part of the covenant, the benefits that or concessions that the developer, investor is getting from the government increase based on how much trade-off they give them. So if they're going to agree to develop this property and give 100% of the units, so let's say it's a 100-unit building, they're going to give all 100 units dedicated to a population at a low income, very low income, extremely low income, they get more concessions. Call it more density bonus, the term of the loan. Not all affordable developments will be 100%. So let's say same thing. They develop a 100-unit building. In the covenant, they agree to 50% of the units will be dedicated affordable. The other 50%, they can do whatever they want, rent to whoever from the market, any market renter at market rate. But then the other 50% of those units that they agreed to will be rented to applicants whose income verifies that they are low income, medium, very low income, and so on and so forth. And so the more units you give to the mission of making affordable units available to low-income communities, the more concessions you get for the government. It's a trade-off. Pros and cons, well, you can get very favorable loan terms. These days there are some provisions from the current administration in the city of LA, like ED1, Executive Directive 1, that makes the process of building something like this true affordable, meaning it's an affordable development in conjunction and agreement with the government for the mission of providing affordable housing. There's expedited processes there. Other benefits might be, well, now you get to build more units because you don't have to worry about parking so much. There are plots of land and government-owned land that can be used for this and made readily available by the government. I won't bore you with the intricacies of what that actually looks like. That'll probably be a deeper dive. But those are some of the benefits. A lot of developers that approached me and our consulting firm over the past 5 years bought land, started affordable projects, meaning they applied to the government and got one of those affordable programs. And I'll just go into a couple of those real quick, just so in case anybody who's watching this is very familiar with some of these things. So you've got tech, which stands for low income housing tax credit. Low income housing tax credit. So a development like that, a LIHTC development, is going to get a tax credit for the development. And there's also TOC, It's a big one here in LA. TOC stands for Transit-Oriented Communities. So this is a good example of one where the government owns plots of land that are near transit. Could be near a train station, a bus station, some form of public transit. And they want those plots of land developed, so they create the TOC program where it's an affordable housing development opportunity for developers to get a government loan, some subsidy, density bonus as well, to develop land near and around public transit, because it serves a double purpose that oftentimes lower income populations may heavily rely on public transit, so it kind of works out. So there's LIHTC, TOC, you've got the density bonus. So you agree to build a 50% or 100% affordable housing development. Density bonus means you can build more units and not have to worry about the parking mandate, which is big here in LA. And there's more, and I won't need to go into those, but those are some of the main ones right there. There are new ones. Really briefly, ED1, which is very new. So our current Mayor Karen Bass created Executive Directive 1, which all of these that have always existed can take years just to go through the approval process. And so ED1, Executive Directive 1, was intended to expedite the process. So applications would be reviewed, applications from the developer to the city would be reviewed by the respective departments and replied to within 45 days. There would be an outcome within 45 days, where in the past it takes years sometimes for some of these to get reviewed even, and then approved, and then so on and so forth. So I have clients who built some of these TOC, some density bonus buildings, and we've actually helped them operate those buildings and find the populations that they need to, that they're mandated to house. But one client developed a building that just recently opened up, 15 units. That's 15 units. And it took about 4 years to develop. And there was another one we had where it was 19 units and took about 4 years to develop. Now, granted, this was during COVID, so there were some complexities there, but that's just an example of traditionally how long it can take to do a traditional affordable housing, meaning, again, this is a project that is participating in a government subsidized program to the developer with the agreement that for the 30 or 50 years that the covenant of affordability is on that building, that the owners, whether it's the original owners, the builders, or whoever buys it next, will only house the population as agreed upon in the covenant, that they have to be below a certain AMI. And by the way, so some cons. A con is, okay, that covenant, 30 to 50 years. So for 30 to 50 years, that building cannot just pivot. That owner cannot be like, well, we're changing the model. We're only going to house executives. We're going to turn this into luxury housing. We're going to only house students at full market. Can't happen. Because the terms in the covenant, the loan, what have you, are audited. So every year, the operator of these assets that are true affordable housing, meaning they're in conjunction with the government and or a government program, go through an annual audit where the leases must be submitted, and every application has to come in with a income verification that they are actually affordable. And so for those 50 years, they can only house affordable populations, which means the rents are always going to be way below market. So you got in a little bit easier, you did it slightly faster, you got some favorable loan terms from the government, you're able to build more doors where you normally wouldn't, but for 30 to 50 years, you're going to have to house folks who can't afford market rent. And here in California, in the last 5 years, prices for rent have skyrocketed. So a lot of the developers that we work with who got into deals like this in the last 5 years are now finding themselves in a market that is really high, but they have to rent really low, or to a particular population. Now, there are some ways where that can still work. Actually, it can absolutely work. That's a big part of what we do at our firm, is helping our clients operate these and not take a massive loss on rents. And that's through what we're going to talk about next, which is subsidized housing.